Hello, it's me, Arisa Gaming. I'm back with another Sandbox Showcase video, the series where I talk about problems in Oxygen Not Included and how you can solve them easily and efficiently. So today I want to talk about magma volcanoes again. So we did a video where we set up a tamer for minor volcanoes where we would convert the 1700 degrees magma into cool igneous rock. And we would use all of the power that we could extract from the heat of the volcano with steam turbines to cool the rock, so that we could get the rock out of the volcano as fast as possible and feed it to stone hatches, which are these little critters here that eat igneous rock and other materials. So that was the focus of that build. But to be honest, the more common context for wanting to actually utilize these volcanoes is just to use the heat for power. So today I wanted to do a different volcano taming build that just focuses on getting consistent power out of the volcano in a sustainable way and just letting the hot rock sit in a safe containment somewhere so that we can keep adding it to the steam turbines as needed to get that power consistently and reliably. So the difference between this video and the previous one is we're focusing on the power generation rather than just cooling the rock as fast as possible. And this build will use the same number of steam turbines, 3, to handle a regular volcano, which produces twice as much magma as the minor volcano that was the focus of the last video. So yeah, let's begin. So we've cleared out some space around the volcano, and the first thing I'm going to do is talk about the layout, because the layout is going to be slightly different. In the previous build, we were letting the volcano immediately erupt into a pool of liquid uranium to immediately condense the magma into igneous rock, and then we were using conveyor loaders to shuffle all of the rock around pools of oil in a big steam room to immediately cool it down and run it through the steam turbines as fast as possible. In this case, we're going to drip feed the magma more slowly into a design that condenses it as needed and stores the hot rock for safe use later on. You will absolutely need insulated tiles to stop the heat from the volcano transferring everywhere, and you need to make sure the volcano is always erupting into a vacuum. The heat from 1700 degrees C magma with a specific heat capacity of 1 is substantial, and any gas is going to quickly become scalding or molten temperatures for dupes, and it's going to start melting stuff and breaking stuff. So absolutely vacuum out the whole area where you're doing your volcano build before you do it. And in this case, we're actually going to use obsidian for the insulated tiles. It's a little bit more thermally conductive than igneous rock, which is what we normally use, but it absolutely won't melt under any circumstances from volcano temperatures. So we're going to just do a little room here. We're going to make it 4 tiles high just for convenience. And then this is the tile where we're going to drip the magma through. We can mirror this build, and I'll show you a mirrored version of this build at the end of the video because the automation is quite complicated to mirror. So we're going to leave a little bit up here where the dupes can access the room. And with this being vacuum sealed, you'll just want to put like a little blob of a liquid here. I usually recommend doing naphtha for this. The melting point of the liquid doesn't matter because it's not going to conduct heat with the volcano under any circumstances. Don't do it, guys. So we're just going to put that in. The dupes can wander down here, and we're going to drip the magma through from the volcano with some steel doors. Again, using steel because it doesn't overheat, and it doesn't, well, the steel won't melt from the volcano temperatures. We're not building any buildings that would normally overheat that are in direct contact with the volcano. So this is our eruption room. Now, this volcano is a fairly typical volcano, and it produces 266 kilograms per second for 69 seconds. The average throughput of a regular volcano is 1.2 kilograms per second of magma, including dormancy periods. But the actual eruption average is about sort of 1.8 kilograms per second, I think. Maybe a little bit higher than that. In any case, you want to design this room so that it can handle all of the magma from one single eruption, because these eruptions happen very quickly and are spread out over many cycles. Like you'll get one eruption every 15 cycles or so. It depends on the volcano. So in this case, the total eruption volume from one eruption is going to be around 18 tons, and the magma stacks up to about 1,800 kilograms per tile. So we want at least 10 tiles in here for the magma to build up on, because if this tile reaches a pressure significantly above, say, 150 kilograms, then the volcano is going to start overpressurizing. And an overpressurizing volcano is really bad because the magma only comes out for these short periods. If it's overpressurizing at any point, you're losing a substantial chunk of the heat you're trying to gain from this build. So under no circumstances let this overpressurize. The magma is also quite viscous. Even when all the magma drips through this little opening here, you're still going to be left with about 180 kilograms on this tile, 360 on this tile, 540 on this, and so on and so forth. And you're almost going to have a full tile of magma from here just from viscosity. So you want to build some extra room in your build for that. So I would say about 6 tiles wide is pretty good. If you're geotuning this, you are going to want to make it wider. And the one thing I would say is don't geotune this more than 4 times. If you geotune it 5 times, the magma is going to be coming out at 2,475 degrees C. And at that point, it's not going to be magma. It's going to be rock gas. And good luck dealing with that gas, because the specific heat capacity does not decrease. It's still 1. Don't do it. I might do a video on that another time, but we'll see. But yeah, I'm going to talk about how this build can handle being geotuned, because this is a really good case of using a tiny bit of abyssalite to get a lot of power out of the extra heat. But I'll talk about that as we go. So let's continue laying out the room. So this is the room where we're going to allow the magma to fall out. We're going to have a little storage over here where we're going to bring condensed igneous rock, and we're going to store it in here before we send it over to the heatsink and the steam turbine room to actually generate power. Then we're going to put the heatsink down here. You can make this heatsink bigger if you have the space. I'm just showing you the minimum size that you need to actually have the build function. So heatsink is going to go down here. What I would say is you only need obsidian for tiles that are going to be in contact with magma. If the tiles aren't going to be in direct contact with magma like these ones, then you can make them out of regular igneous rock and it's fine. Ceramic is a more insulative material. It has less thermal conductivity, but the melting point isn't significantly higher than igneous rock. What you're worried about with this build is the tiles eventually actually just melting from being in contact with the magma. Because the igneous rock, if we look at this melts at 1,400 degrees. It will take many, many cycles for this rock tile to get to that temperature anyways, because its thermal conductivity is so low, but it's just something to bear in mind. And if you have any tiles that are in direct contact with gases, they're going to heat up a lot faster due to the gas-solid conductivity bonus of 25 times. So bear that in mind. It's particularly relevant for these tiles here. So yeah, we're going to have some insulated tiles down here, and then we're going to put some more doors in. I'll explain the sequencing of these doors later, but that's going to drop all of the magma down onto this tile here. Our heatsink is going to be composed of diamond tiles. So you need to get some diamond from the oil biome for this. And this is the best material by far for this heatsink. A, because its melting point is around 3,900, so it's never going to melt under any circumstances. And B, it has a very high thermal conductivity of 80, which is really good. So this is going to absorb all of the heat from the magma as it comes down here and condense the igneous rock very quickly. Now, what we're going to add here as well is we're going to add some liquid uranium, one of my favorite materials, because liquid uranium stays as a liquid. Let's actually just spawn some for a second and I'll explain this. So yeah, we'll just spawn 75 kilograms on each of these tiles, because that's the viscous threshold of liquid uranium. If you put more on this tile, it will slide down here anyways. But yeah, it's a liquid between 133 degrees C and 4,132 degrees C, which is an absolutely massive temperature range, and it's frankly a bug. The devs forgot to put an extra 1 on this freeze point. I'm going to keep pointing it out every time I use this in a build, because it's very funny. So this material has a massive thermal range, and it's a metal, and it's relatively thermally conductive for a liquid as well. The key being liquid-to-liquid contacts have a 625 times thermal conductivity bonus. So having the magma come into contact with this liquid uranium is going to immediately condense the magma into igneous rock debris. And provided that you have less than around sort of 1,400 kilograms of magma in this tile when it contacts the liquid uranium, it's going to turn into debris and not a tile. the tiling threshold for magma is very high. And we're going to set up automation to make sure you're never dumping too much magma in here at once to hit that threshold. So that's what the liquid uranium is for. You can get this liquid uranium in here pretty easily by building a segment of heavy watt wire, which is 100 kilograms. Just build it out of uranium ore, put it here. The magma will come into contact with it, and eventually it will melt. I would just put it down here, and then if need be, you can sweep some up and put it over here. Yeah, very useful material. You don't need a lot of it. It does have a fairly good heat capacity of 1.69 compared to the heat capacity of 0.516 of these diamond tiles. So if you have lots of uranium ore lying around, you don't want to put it in a nuclear reactor, just melting a lot of it here with the magma and putting it on this heatsink will add a lot of heat capacity to this heatsink, which can help regulate the design, make it a little less fragile. But with the automation we're going to build, it's not going to be too fragile in general. So that's roughly what's going on here, and then we'll start actually building the steam turbine room. So there's going to be another door here. This is again going to be made out of steel. These doors all need to be made out of steel so they don't melt under the temperatures being heated by the magma. This is not negotiable. And it's fairly conductive as well. So we're going to build that there, and then we're going to have room for 3 steam turbines. Now I've selected 3 in this case because we're using a regular volcano. The mass flow rate of this, including dormancy, is 1.2 kilograms per second. The magma, we're eventually planning on cooling by 1700 degrees C. So that's going to require around 2040 kDTUs per second of cooling. And 3 steam turbines will definitely handle that. That's absolutely fine. So we're going to put that here. We'll put a few more diamond tiles just here where they're immediately in contact with the door. So they definitely don't melt under any circumstances. And then we're going to build more conductive stuff in here. But let's put the steam turbines in first. So you can make these out of lead. We're going to be actively cooling these, so there's not going to be a huge issue. You do need plastic to build steam turbines. And we're going to put 3 of them here. If you're geotuning this volcano, you'll need to increase the number of steam turbines to suit. If you're geotuning this 4 times, i.e. the maximum amount before before you have shenanigans with rock gas, you would want 6 steam turbines, for instance. Maybe 5, but yeah. Let me know if you do geotune a build like this, how it goes, because I'm mostly just basing this off the normal volcano. Maybe we'll do a follow-up video about geotuning it specifically. Anyways, we'll have the steam turbines in here. We're going to put some aluminium tiles in here where the temperature is going to be lower because they're much more thermally conductive. It's the best you can really get with a common material. You can find the aluminium ore in the forest biome. If you don't have a forest biome, just making them out of more diamond isn't too bad. Cobalt is a pretty good replacement as well from the swampy biome with the plug slugs. But I'm gonna build it out of aluminium here. You could use steel in the worst case, or any other refined metal really will be good enough, but at that point you might as well just use more diamond. So that's going to go in here, and then we're going to cover up these steam turbines. We're going to have this be sort of 4 tiles high, and what we'll do is we'll just leave a little lip here where someone can get in again. So you can have a dupe wander in here. We'll fill this with a little bit of conductive gas at the top, that's fine. And then, again, you can put your liquid of choice here just to block this gap. We'll just use naphtha again because it's very viscous. You can get naphtha from melting plastic. You can melt the plastic with the volcano, although it's probably going to turn into sour gas. Maybe don't do that one. But yeah, this way the dupes can just wander in and tinker with this as they need to. We're going to put some liquids in here just for some thermal conductivity. I'm assuming you're going into an oil biome to build this because you need the diamond for this room. This is not optional. So, yeah, I mean, you can build it out of any material that's not going to melt from the volcano, but this is by far the most conductive one. So I'm going to assume you have access to oil. So we'll put a few layers of oil down here to add extra conductivity to the steam turbines. Fill it with a fairly large amount of mass. You don't want to flood the buildings. 150 kilograms of oil on the bottom will be fine. We can put more liquids in here as well if we want. We'll put a layer of petroleum on top, because if you have crude oil, you're probably going to have some petroleum. Again, 150 kilograms. If we have a large amount of heat capacity in this room, then as we start moving the rock into this room eventually to get cooled, then we can cool it down a bit faster. And it helps regulate the temperature of the steam turbines a bit better. And then what we'll do as well is we'll put some aluminium tiles on the top. So they'll go here. And then we'll just fill this bit with some hydrogen gas. You can put a gas vent in here, like a high pressure one. Once you've vacuumed it out, and then you can just fill it with some hydrogen gas to fill in the gap. So we'll put 20 kilograms per tile of hydrogen gas in here. And that's our sort of conductive material for the steam turbine room. Okie dokie. So, what do we do next? Kind of done this in a little bit of a higgledy-piggledy way. Let's just build the rest of the buildings, and I'll talk more about the build, and then we'll start hooking up all the actual systems. So, in terms of automation, we're going to put a few different things in here. We're going to put a hydro sensor in this room. You have to make all of this stuff out of steel so it doesn't melt from the magma. This is very important. Make steel. Just do it. We're going to put a hydro sensor down here as well. We're going to put another hydro sensor down here. There's a lot of automation that's going to go into this build, and I'll explain it more in depth in a minute. But it's very important to make sure that the system is running in a safe way, a safe, controlled way. There may be better ways to do this automation than what I'm going to show you, but this is just the method I've settled on. We're going to put a conveyor shutoff in here. This needs to be made out of steel so it doesn't melt. It won't overheat, though. So, what you'll notice is this room is vacuum. The magma is coming down here. The magma is immediately condensing into stuff down here. This is also going to be vacuum. You need to vacuum this out. But because it's a vacuum and all the magma is immediately condensing here, there's never going to be anything to actually conduct heat with this, provided you don't have a liquid on these tiles or a gas in this room. So we can actually put an auto sweeper in here, and I'm going to make it out of steel just to be safe. You can put an auto sweeper and a conveyor loader in here, and these can actually grab... I'm going to put this one over here. These can actually grab the igneous rock as it condenses. If you put the auto sweeper here, it can reach both of these tiles where the igneous rock will condense and pick them up. And we're going to actively cool these with the steam turbines as well. But this auto sweeper can essentially pick up the rock, put it in this loader, and put it in this room. We're going to put another door here. And then what we'll do is we'll just put a chute in here. Because what we're going to do with the build, the aim of what we're going to do... I'm going to make this out of steel as well, just so I don't accidentally cut it. What we're aiming to do, as soon as the rock condenses, it gets dropped in this room via the chute. And just forms a pile on this obsidian tile, where it's not going to conduct heat with anything. Just going to be a load of inert igneous rock just chilling out here. Well, not even chilling out, it's just going to be staying at a static temperature. And then, when we need to inject some more heat into the heat sink, once all the magma is actually condensed, we're not getting heated directly from the magma anymore, we will periodically take rock out of this room by opening this door and putting it in the loader. And then we're going to circulate that rock around this with a conveyor rail. And then we're going to circulate it into this room to cool it down even more, and then this room to cool it down at the end and get it to room temperature. So that's where we're going to put those buildings. I'm going to put another conveyor shutoff in here. Again, you don't have to make this one out of steel, because it's not going to melt and it can't overheat. So you can make this one out of aluminium, I guess. So that one's going to go there. We're going to put the liquid vent for the steam turbines. We're going to put two vents in. We're going to put one at this end where all the heat is transferring over from the magma and the igneous rock directly into the steam turbine room. And we're going to put another one over here because we're going to have a thermo aquatuner over here to actively cool the steam turbines and these machines in the vacuum. We're going to do that with conduction panels. So let's put in the thermo aquatuner. I'm just going to place all the buildings now, and then we'll hook everything up later in discrete sections. So we're going to put a pipe thermosensor here, and we're going to do our usual hookup with the thermo aquatuner. We can make this out of aluminium, that's fine. I wouldn't recommend putting any lead in here, but any other metal would be fine. You shouldn't get to lead melting temperatures in this room. We're going to put another thermosensor over here as well. And then we're going to put a conveyor. We're We're going to put a conveyor thermosensor on this. We're not going to put a conveyor thermosensor on this shutoff, and I'll explain why later. So that one can go here. And then we're going to put 2 more thermosensors over here by the thermo actuator. And then that leaves us with 8 tiles in here that are free. You don't have to put anything in here. I like to put batteries in there, to be honest. But what we do need to do is we need to put some temperature plates in here, because we're going to fill this room with steam, believe it or not. We do want this room to just be steam. I've done this before on my runs, and I've had a layer of oil on the bottom, but you don't want that. You just want steam. So you can just dump water from whatever water source you have into this room and heat it up with the magma and get however much steam you want. But I'm going to say let's give it 100 kilograms per tile of steam in this room. Give it a large amount so that the temperature of the room is fairly stable and you're not getting too many high temperature fluctuations that would result in wasted power when the steam turbines go above 200 degrees C. So yeah, we're going to fill that room with some steam. Now, solid tiles and gases have a thermal conductivity bonus of 25 times, which is pretty good, but it's still not amazing because steam is just not very thermally conductive. So what I would recommend is also putting some temperature plates in here. These require a lot of material, so if you're raiding an oil biome already, I would suggest that you just make these temperature plates out of diamond, because it's conductive enough and you have lots of it lying around anyways. If you have loads of aluminium, from metal refineries, volcanoes, etc., you can make these out of aluminium instead and they'll be better, but I understand that's really expensive. So we'll put those there. We'll put some temperature plates in here as well with the steam turbines. These aren't super necessary, but I mean, you may as well have them. And you want to make sure the temperature plates aren't touching the igneous, the insulated tile at all, because that will conduct heat into the tiles very quickly and defeat the point. So you never want these touching insulative elements. We don't need any in here because there's no gas in here. And there's nothing that we want to transfer heat to in here. Okay, so let's just put some batteries in here to finish this off. We'll connect everything up with wires as well. These batteries will need to be made out of steel because they could overheat otherwise. The thermo aquatuner also needs to be made out of steel. This room is going to be getting around 200 degrees. That's the target temperature you want it to be at, maybe a little bit lower. Gold amalgam isn't going to cut it. It's going to overheat at 175. Whereas the steel won't overheat until 325 for this and 275 for this. So in terms of power, we're just going to connect this all up with some wires. The conductive wires in the volcano room obviously need to be made out of steel. You do not want to melt these. And if you're geotuning this build, you're probably going to want to make them out of something more heat resistant than steel, because the steel is going to melt fairly soon into geotuning this. So that's just a heads up. You may need some advanced materials to handle it then. So this wire will just continue here. We'll just hook up everything. That's fine. You're probably going to want more than one conductive wire to handle all of this. But I'm just going to connect everything up together to show you how it works. You can do your power management however you want to do it with transformers or whatever. I'm not going to show you how to do that in this video. So let's just connect that wire here, and then we'll just connect this to some batteries down here as well. Either way, this build isn't going to draw more than 2 kilowatts at once, so this build will run itself once you actually get the steam in here going through the turbines. I would recommend starting it off by just connecting it to your base power. In this case, we'll just connect it to a dev generator. But once you get a single eruption here, you're going to be able to remove this and disconnect it very quickly and just have it run itself. So, the next thing we're going to do with this build is the automation. It's a little bit complicated. Let's start with the thermo aquatuner. That's not too complicated. So, we'll build this out of aluminium wire. That's fine. We're going to set this to send a green signal if it's above 25 degrees. We're trying to cool down the steam turbine room to about room temperature, so that eventually when the rock comes out of this room, it is at room temperature. The rock is going to come out relatively slowly in this build, and it is going to accumulate in here over time. But it will eventually come out of here. So we're going to hook that up like that. We need to make sure that the steam in this room, and thus the heatsink that it's connected to, never gets below 140 C. Otherwise, this uranium is going to freeze, and then we're going to have a bad time. So we're just going to hook this up like this. Not very complicated. and that's going to be set to above 140 degrees. If it gets below that temperature, the steam turbines won't run, and we won't cool down the heat sink or the heated area. The next thing we're going to do, we're going to set this thermosensor to above 195 degrees C. And if it gets above 195 degrees C in this bit, we're going to put a automation wire here, and we're just going to loop it around to this vent. There's probably a slightly neater way of doing this automation wire, but I'm just showing you how I did it. So it's going to go here. If this area gets too hot because of the thermal aquatuner, water from the steam turbines will start to dump on this, and it will cool down. So that's what we're aiming for with that. Next, we're going to put a NOT gate over here. So if the temperature is below 195 degrees C, this is going to go all the way over here, and then we're going to put a wire bridge here, and then that's going to connect to this vent. So if it's cold enough that this doesn't need actively cooling with the steam turbine output, this vent opens instead, and we cool the heat coming in from the metal block, or from the heatsink. So that way we're allocating where the water goes. And I think at that point it makes sense to actually just show the liquid piping and start all of that. So let's start with just the steam turbine output pipes. So we want to keep these insulated because we want to get this room below 95 degrees C. Igneous rock is fine for this. We're just going to send it up and around. So we're going to want coolant pipe running all the way through here. So that's going to go through the obsidian tiles. And what I'll do is send it down to the bottom of where this door is. And then we'll put a bridge here in the obsidian tiles, so there's no conductivity shenanigans going on. And then we'll send it to this vent first, and then we'll send it to this vent. So the next bit. So let's actually put in a liquid pump. So whatever your liquid coolant source is for the thermal aquatuner, we're going to build it into the loop. So in this case, again, as usual, we're going to use polluted water because you can cool it down to minus 20 degrees without having issues, so it gives you more buffer in case something goes wrong. And it's something you probably wouldn't use for other stuff too much. And the heat capacity is really good, which means this thermal aquatuner will run efficiently because the heat capacity is 4.179, and you're not really going to get better than that. So that's going to come in here. Let's start with the thermal aquatuner bypass. So the polluted water from the coolant loop is going to come in here. It's going to hit this sensor, and if the water is hot enough, it's going to go into the thermal aquatuner and run this. You've seen me explain this a lot throughout my videos, including the previous one. Then, if this isn't activated because the water's cool, it's going to go into a bypass down here, and then we're going to bridge it up here, and then we're going to have the output pipe from the thermal aquatuner go up here into here, and then that's going to carry on up here. And what that's going to do is when the thermal aquatuner isn't running, it's going to continue to smoothly allow the coolant liquid to flow through this that's not actively being cooled. So it will prioritize loading on cooled liquid from the aquatuner, but it will still recirculate the loop otherwise. So this just means it will run continuously and you don't have to worry about it, which is what we want. So then, immediately after that, we're going to put a liquid bridge on here, and it's important you put this bridge immediately afterwards. And that is just where we're going to hook on our coolant liquid. You can disconnect this once the loop is all full, but you can leave it plugged in as well and it still works. I like to do that just in case we have shenanigans. So then we're going to put some radiant liquid pipe in here where we're actively cooling the steam turbines. Aluminium is the best material for this because it has the best heat capacity, but if you realistically, any refined metal will do. But I'm just going to assume you have aluminium. This is quite an advanced build. I'm going to basically assume that you have access to all of the biomes on your starting planet when you're doing this. You're usually going to have either a forest or a swamp planet that has a conductive metal to build this out, rather than just lead. So then we're just going to loop it around this room in such a way that we get as much of the heat from the coolant loop, or we get as much of the heat from the steam turbines and the hot rock that comes into here absorbed into the coolant loop. So it works out pretty neatly like this. And then we just send it back in here. You can run regular liquid pipe through the insulated tiles if you want, but I'm just going to use insulated liquid pipe. You're still not going to have much temperature conduction going on with the liquid pipe, but I like to do it with the insulated anyways, just in case I forget like if I remove a tile and then it's conducting heat and I forget about it. You're probably going to have enough rock to do this. If you don't have enough rock, then just use regular liquid pipe when you're going through the insulated tiles and just think about it. So this is going to go up here, and then what we're going to do is we're actually going to put some conduction panels in here, because it's very important that this room stays in a vacuum so that these machines don't conduct heat with the heat sink or the magma at all, but they still get actively cooled because the buildings themselves generate heat, and you're going to get a little bit of heat transfer from the igneous rock. It's not a lot because the igneous rock, despite being very hot, is not very thermally conductive. So the conduction panels will still handle this pretty well. You can make these out of steel. I would recommend making them out of steel so they don't melt if something goes wrong. Aluminium is more conductive, but the steel is conductive enough, so I would prefer just doing that. So that's just going to go in here, that's going to come out here, and then that's going to loop through here. And we'll just send it back. It doesn't matter too much what way you send it back. I think I'm going to change this slightly, sorry. Originally, when I did this, I sent it along here. So it was going mostly through insulated tile. The issue being, if you're building igneous rock pipe and you're leading it through this area where you have the magma, it can melt. If you let the magma stay in here for too long. So I think what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to send the igneous rock down here. We'll just send that over here. We'll just send it up here instead. So what we'll do then is we'll remove this pipe. And then that way as well, what you can actually do is you can either just lead it on like this through the two vents in sequence, or we can just have the pipe up here and have it dump in each vent independently. So next up, let's continue the automation. This is where it starts to get a little bit more complicated. We have a thermosensor here. We're going to set this one to about above 190 degrees C. That is going to go into another automation wire bridge. And at this point, I'm going to start building stuff out of steel, where it's connecting to the actual element that's going into this stuff. So that's going to go over there, and then we're going to run this. I'm going to run this through the door, i.e., when it's above 190 degrees, this door will open and it will form a vacuum in this little 2-tile gap here. So the heat will stop transferring at all between this heatsink and the steam room. So this makes sure the steam room doesn't get too hot. I set it to about 190 because when you're injecting heat from this and this is very hot, the temperature ramps up really quickly unless you have a very large amount of mass in here. Like a reasonable amount of mass. If you have more steam in here, you can increase this temperature. But I find this works pretty well with about 100 kilograms of steam. So yeah, that is going to go there. And then we're going to continue to lead this through. So let me actually think about this. Right, so again, build this all out of steel. That's going to go here. And then we're going to hook this up to this conveyor shutoff here. So if the temperature is below 190 degrees C, then this shutoff will activate and it will start to send hot rock into this room as well. And we'll talk about the conveyor stuff in a minute. So that's what this is doing. Now, there's going to be some AND gates involved in a sec. So this hydro sensor. Let's start with the stuff up here. So we're going to put a timer sensor in here. I always struggle to actually spot this one for some reason. So that timer is going to go here. And we're going to set this to 1 green second and 10 red seconds. And what that's going to do is it's going to open this door for 1 second every 10 seconds or so. So we're just letting in little blobs of magma at a time from this room. It's going to go in here. We're also going to set up this hydro sensor so it only triggers if it's above 200 kilograms. And that way, it's only opening and closing this door when the magma is actually going to flow. Because if it's less than this threshold, then the magma is too viscous, and this door is just going to be opening and closing all the time and driving you insane. So that's the function of this hydro sensor. So then we're just going to connect that here. We're going to connect that here. And we're just going to put an AND gate on this. Yes. And again, you want to make this all out of steel. Oh. Okay, just give me a second. Okay. We're back. This is steel. This is steel automation wire. Use steel for anything that could possibly contact magma. I'm going to keep saying it. So the AND gate, make that out of steel as well. That goes here. And then we're just going to send this wire all the way around here. So I'm going to send this up here because there's something else in here that I haven't mentioned yet. We're going to send that down here. And that is eventually going to connect into this door. But we're going to have some more stuff fiddling with this door and telling it to turn on or off. So these two conditions have to be met for this door to open. But there's another condition we're going to add as well. So this thermosensor, we're going to set this to send a green signal if it's below, say, 1200 degrees C. Basically, you want to set this thermosensor to a high enough temperature where if this temperature is exceeded, the magma isn't condensing properly because there's not enough of a temperature difference between the heatsink and the magma. At that point, the conductivity isn't doing anything, and the magma is just hanging around here, heating stuff up, and eventually, if the machine breaks, it could get in here and cause all sorts of shenanigans. And we're also going to set this hydro sensor to below 0 kilograms. So this isn't going to activate unless there's no magma in this tile. If there's magma in this tile, it won't activate. So this will activate when the debris forms. So what we'll do is we'll plug this in here, and then we'll use another AND gate. So both when the heatsink is cool enough, and when there's no magma on this tile, then this automation wire will activate, and we'll just send this up here. And then that is going to go into our final, well, a third AND gate, and that's just going to go here. And that's just going to connect to the door. So all 4 of these conditions need to be met for this door to open. It needs to be the time within, it needs to be 1 second out of 10. There needs to be plenty of magma here. There needs to be no magma here. And the heatsink needs to be cool enough to actually transfer heat effectively. If all of those conditions are met, we let more magma into the room. So the next bit of automation is fairly simple. We just set this one to above 0. So if we detect magma in this room, then we open this door. And I like to do this just to make sure that we're only getting a single packet through. A single tile's worth of magma through. So this door will close, and then this one will open. And then that will let the single tile of magma through. So that's all we do with that door. And then what we're going to do as well, so when these conditions are met where there's no magma here and the heatsink is cool enough, we'll put an automation wire bridge here. And that is going to go over to... That's going to go over to here. And it's going to go into this door. So, let me explain what the automation wire here is doing with this NOT gate. So, if the heatsink is hot, or there's magma here, this will send a red signal. This will make sure that the door is closed and the chute is open. So when the auto sweeper is loading the rock onto this conveyor loader, as it continuously does, all of that really hot rock is going to get dumped in this room, where it just sits there, because this door is closed. So all the igneous rock is going to sit here until the heatsink gets cool enough because of this thermosensor, and all the magma is gone because of this sensor. At which point, this chute will shut and this door will open, which means the rock will now be grabbed from this pile once it's all been moved over there, and it will go back into the loader to be recirculated into the loop. And again, I'll explain this more once we've actually got the conveyor loop, but basically what this means is the hot rock is being dumped in this room first, and then it's being loaded onto the conveyor loop as needed to heat up all of the infrastructure. Okay? So that's what that automation does. And then the final bit of automation is the conveyor loader automation. So we've got a thermosensor here. This one's fairly straightforward. This one is set to above 200 degrees. So now let me explain where the material goes. So it's going around this loop. If this room is cool enough, the rock that's recirculating in this room on the heatsink will start to get diverted into this room. Then, if the rock in this room is hot enough, then it will keep recirculating in this room. And if it's cool enough, then it's going to go up here. And then we're going to put a third conveyor shut off. You could probably put it in this room and it would make more sense. So let's do that. Let's do that. Let's move this automation wire down here. Whoops. Okay, so that's fine. And what we'll do is we'll just put we'll remove these 3 tiles. So we'll remove those 3 tiles. We'll put a conveyor shut off here. This will be made out of aluminium. And then we'll put a conveyor thermosensor here. And then what we'll do is hook this up with some automation. If this gets cool enough, so if this is below, say 30 degrees or so, then it's going to dump it up here. So now that we've actually set out where all these conveyor shutoffs are, I'll plug this one in here as well. Let's actually start laying out the conveyor line. So, first things first. Build this conveyor rail out of steel. You don't want it to melt. This is obvious. So that is going to go in here, and it's first of all going to go into this chute. So you're dumping all the hot rock in this room. When this chute is turned off and it's being reloaded into the loop, then we'll recirculate it around this room. So the conveyor rail is going to come out of this chute, and then once it's being reloaded on to redistribute the heat from the hot rock as needed, that is going to come... It's going to come down here. It's going to come down here, and it's going to wrap around this bit. And then what it's going to do is it's going to go into the conveyor shutoff first, which is going to be triggered by all the temperature stuff in here. And then what we're going to do is, if it's still being recirculated, we'll just lead it down here, we'll lead it up here, put it in a conveyor bridge, and that conveyor bridge is going to dump onto the conveyor receptacle first. So this is going to change slightly from how I drew it up. So we can just do it like this. So the important thing is that the bridge terminates, or the bridge starts here, and then it goes into the loader. This is important. That's the important part. So this is going to recirculate all the hot rock around this room. Once the rock wants to go into the steam turbine room, we're going to lead it up here, and we're going to dump it over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 2 conveyor bridges in. This one's going to go here. Oh, this conveyor bridge needs to be made out of steel as well. Hold on. Yeah, there we go. So that's going to go here. And then that material is going to go through this room, and it's going to just distribute all of its temperature out however we want it. It doesn't really matter too much, so we're just going to lead it up and down like this. And we're going to lead it over here to this sensor, because we set it to above 200 degrees as a threshold. If it's cool enough, it's going to go in here and go to the next room. If it's hotter than that, it's going to go in here into this bridge, which is then going to come down here and lead back up here. So that's going to be the start of the conveyor rail. And what that's going to do is it's going to make sure that the rock in this room recirculates before more of it is loaded from this room where it's significantly hotter. But yeah, what we'll do is we'll take that rock off here. We'll put a... Let's see. This is going to change slightly from my original build. So this is just going to go into this room. We're going to do all of the temperature exchange shenanigans in this room. So that's going to go up here like this. If it's cool enough, we're just going to dump the cool rock out here, and that's going to be done. If it's not, then we're going to send it back down here, and it's going to re-enter the system. All right. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to put a conveyor bridge on here. We're going to put a conveyor bridge on here, where the material's coming back. That is going to be the start of the line. So that conveyor rail is going to go here. Then it's going to go up into this bit. And then we're going to lead this down here, and it's going to go over here. Yeah, that's fine. And that's going to ensure that the material, again, recirculates in this room while it's cooling down to 30 degrees or whatever. And the hot rock that's around 200 degrees is going to stay in this room until the rock is cleared out of here. That being said, the rate of rock moving through this whole system is low enough that you're usually not going to have these loops backed up unless something's gone wrong. But this should handle all the rock just fine. And that's the conveyor rail. That's the conveyor rail infrastructure for that, and that's how that fits into the automation. So this is completely disconnected from the rest of this. And that's what it all looks like. Okay, what next? So I think that's actually everything now, like for real. So the next step is actually testing this out. So let's actually wait for the volcano to do a full eruption, and then we'll see what this does. But we'll unpause it first. That's amazing. All right, I'll see you in a minute. Okay, we're back, and it's been 16 cycles, and the magma volcano is about to actually erupt. So let's watch together what happens. So the room is starting with a layer of magma, because this layer will always be left here due to viscosity. And the overall setup has cooled down significantly since this volcano is erupting. So we've got water in here now, and the uranium has turned into just lumps of depleted uranium. This will melt again just fine. So let's see what happens if the volcano just erupts like this. So it's starting to erupt. The magma is coming out. The pressure is increasing. This timer sensor flips. The hydro sensor is active. And obviously the heatsink is cold. So this door opens. A little bit of magma gets left in here. And this door will then close again. Now, it's very important to leave this tile over here open where the timer sensor is, because the magma will teleport up here when the door closes. I made a mistake once where I built this and there was insulated tile here and the magma appeared outside the build and it fried the base. Don't do that. So now we've got 300 kilograms of magma in here. This hydro sensor activates. It's a little bit more than 300. So that drops down here and that immediately condenses because all of this diamond is super cold. But it will heat up again in a minute. We'll let the volcano continue to erupt. This door is going to keep opening. So we'll do this all on speed 1. This time we got about, again, 315 kilograms. We have some molten aluminium. Great, that's a good sign. I forgot to build some wire out of steel. Okay, this one goes here. This is all steel wire, so that's fine. Let's just remove that element. There you go. No molten aluminium for that. So the igneous rock is all heating up. So that is getting loaded into the loader. At the moment, the chute is shut because if we look at the automation... Yeah. So at the moment, the thermosensor is active because it's in a vacuum. So at the moment, the rock is all recirculating around the diamond to heat it up, which is fine, because that's going to start melting all of the uranium in a minute. What's going in here? The heat is being transferred into the steam room as well at the moment. Now you can see this door is shut, so the loader is loading up again, and it's just loading all the hot rock into here. This is going to keep happening a little bit as the system heats up. The volcano is still erupting with magma. You can see it's built up a bit more significantly over here. There's still no clashes with the naphtha over here, so that's not a problem. The volcano is not overpressurizing, which is good. This uranium has melted again, and the heatsink is generally around 200 degrees at the moment, so that's good. This uranium has melted again. All of the rock has ended up over here, and they're just being reloaded in as needed. It looks like we may have had another melting wire. Yes. This one needs to be steel. Yeah, we have some molten aluminum here. I know it's very tempting to build these conductive wires and these automation wires out of other stuff, but don't do it because it will melt. So we're going to keep loading all that stuff in here. Most of this steam has actually just, most of this water has actually just boiled into steam now again, so that's good. The volcano is now idle. The room has filled up with magma, as we expected. It hasn't overpressurized at any point, though, because we've been dripping it through while it's been erupting. Now it's going to continue dripping it through until we're done with the magma. You can see the diamond heat sink is getting hotter. It's around 500 degrees now. We're still letting in the magma. Now it's getting to about 540 at a time, but it's still coming in just fine. We still have the friggin' aluminium in here. I'll have to clear this out. Don't do that and you'll be fine. That was causing shenanigans. But you can see the auto sweeper and the conveyor loader are being kept cool by the coolant going through the conduction panels. That's not having any issues. Again, as this gets hotter, it will take a little bit longer for the heat to transfer over, but it happens very quickly because of the liquid-to-liquid conductivity bonus. So yeah, you can see even though it's a large amount of magma, it cools down right away. The igneous rock cools down right away. This rock will build up here faster than the conveyor loads it, and we are still heating up all the steam in here. So now the steam over here is around 180 degrees. This steam hasn't reached 140 degrees yet. This is where the thermosensor is. So once this steam reaches 140 degrees, then these steam turbines will start to kick in. I mean, I'm sure everything is cooking in already as well, but that's fine. So yeah, heat sink is now around 770 degrees. The igneous rock is still relatively hot, although it's mostly being circulated into the room pretty quickly. If we have a look at the conveyor itself, so it looks like the rock is coming in fairly slowly. It's entering the room to heat it up. Because the solid rock is running through the aluminium tiles, this conducts heat very effectively. So this rock is getting cooled down to 200 degrees pretty quickly because the water isn't that hot yet. So it's leaving this room pretty quickly as well. And then the rock is going through the oil and the petroleum, and that's helping as well. We've also got some metal tiles here, again, for that solid tile conductivity bonus with the rock. That helps a lot. And the gas here has the conductivity bonus of 25 times with the solid, so that's pretty good too. You can see the volcano is still behaving. We're starting to get our first lots of rock dumped out here, and you can see the temperature of the rock is about 28 degrees. So that's all fine, no issues had there. The steam turbines have turned on now that this one is above the melting point of the uranium. So this whole setup will definitely stay at that temperature. We've melted some more aluminium, great. Where was that? I don't know where that one was. That's not good. I believe this is actually hooked up correctly, so let's actually just clear the floor on this. I don't believe anything is disconnected. That might have just been left over from earlier. Ah, no, all of this is melted. Ah, I see, okay. Alright, fine. Okay, turn that back on. There you go. Make that all out of steel, please. Right, that should work now. Okay, so now this room is hot enough. The steam in here is slightly above 200 degrees. The steam turbine still hasn't hit its maximum wattage yet of 850 watts, which is good. We're aiming to make sure it never reaches that maximum wattage, because if it does, that means that power is being wasted. And that means the steam is too hot, so some of the power is being deleted without being turned into power. That's why we've set our thermosensors to these settings. And you can see it's a little bit colder over here in general where the thermal aquatuner is, because the heat is all coming in on this side. Now the heat sink is around 1000 degrees. That's fine. The hot rock is continuing to get loaded in here. It does take a while, and we're still trying to actively heat this room up. So while this door is open, the rock is going to get loaded into the loader. But all the rock is eventually going to get moved from here to here. Now, this rock is still very close to the actual melting point of the magma. As the temperature of the heatsink increases, it will take longer to condense this magma. Thankfully, there's not too much magma left in here now, so we're only going to get a little bit more through here. And then we're going to start loading all the rock through properly. But if we go back to the conveyor overlay, so this rock here, what temperature is all this rock? Yeah, this rock is at like 1000 degrees. So it's going to keep recirculating through here. We're still leaching all of the heat into here through the diamond. This has gotten way too hot. Something is broken. Okay. What is going on with this? This wire is melted this time. Okay. So again, just to confirm, if we look at the steel, so the melting temperature of the steel is 2,400 degrees. So it's definitely not getting that hot. The issue was that there was some aluminium in this wire, and there still is some aluminium in this wire. That's what has been causing the issue here. So let's... Okay, I didn't mean to do that. Right. Bridge, not gate. This is why you don't build the wire out of aluminium for this. Okay, so if we go to the metals overlay now. This wire bridge is made out of copper. I think this one is alright. I don't think this one's going to get too hot. So yeah, this room has been getting slightly too hot because the automation wires kept melting here. But we'll let it run for a little bit and you'll see it's going to cool down fairly quickly. The water is getting dumped in here. The water is getting dumped in here as well. At the moment it's getting dumped in here because the thermal aquatuner needs cooling down. This whole bit needs cooling down, but we've turned off the heat transfer here now, so that should be fine. Importantly, nothing over here is broken as a result of this. The rock is still getting transferred over here just fine. So let's speed up for now and see how it goes. So this is still cooling down. This is cooling down as well. It's going to take a while for that extra heat to dissipate because the wire was melting over here. But it's not taking too long. We didn't put a huge amount of steam in here, so it's not like the temperature is going to take ages to change. It does mean some of this heat is being wasted at the moment, but not a huge amount. And if you build all of the wire here out of steel, you won't have a problem like I did. We built all the power wire out of steel. Now we're at the point where we're definitely generating enough power. We don't need the dev pump in here. A dev generator. So now you can see the build is obviously self-powering, and we can get some extra power off and use transformers, whatever. You can actually just fit transformers in here as well, and then make a heavy watt wire connection if you want to this middle bit. It's quite convenient. Okay, so now this is cooled back down to a sensible temperature. So now all of these are running below the maximum wattage again. So now none of the power is being wasted. The magma is still being transferred over, but the heat spike is hot enough now that the rest of the magma isn't being transferred over for now. So now we're focusing on loading the rock. So the rock is getting loaded into the conveyor loader, and it's being dumped in the chute into this room because this is too hot. So that's working correctly. That's good. And it won't take too long to move all of this rock over to this room. And then this will start to cool down again as it's being cooled. Now just to check, so you can see there is a little bit of heat transfer in this pipe going through the conductive tile, but it's not too bad. If you're really concerned about this, you can just move this pipe outside. Obviously, the con of moving it through here is that you've got the magma here and the pipe could melt if you don't make it out of obsidian, and then that's going to leak more heat as well. So I wouldn't really recommend doing that. I think the best actual approach would be to take this pipe and put it out here. So let's just... I'll let you guys imagine how that would look. But yeah, this is all working now that the wire has been made out of the correct material. So now all of the rock... Yeah, that was the last bit of rock. All of the rock has been dumped in this room now, which means that as this diamond interacts with the steam room via this door that's opening and closing, the temperature will decrease eventually below the threshold again, at which point more rock will be loaded on. This rock is now hotter than the heat spike, so that's going to transfer back in here. Magma is being dropped back in here again, but the magma is all condensing without issue because of the sensible temperature limit here. And now this will just pretty much run until it'll run for the rest of time, pretty much, to be honest. Now, one thing to note, from a maths point of view, you need to cool the magma by about 325 degrees to condense it into the igneous rock. So times that by 1.2, and you're getting about 450, 500 kDTUs of active cooling required just to condense the rock. Once the rock is condensed, you can just store it infinitely in a room like this with the chute, and you're not going to have any issues storing it. I would highly, suggest doing this instead of trying to make an infinite storage of magma. Because even if your infinite storage of magma works, all it takes is one thing for it to break, and you suddenly have hundreds of tons of magma spewing over your base, melting everything. So I would highly recommend condensing this. Now, this is pretty feasible when you're not geotuning the volcano. But if you're geotuning the volcano, you actually require a fair amount more cooling just to get it to this condensing part. So what you would want to do is you would want to run more steam turbines, and you'd also want to set this to a lower temperature to make sure the magma is all condensing properly. But yeah, I would be interested to see what modifications need to actually be made to the setup to allow for geotuning. So let me know if you build this in the comments and what your experiences are with geotuning. I still highly recommend geotuning these volcanoes if you can, just because the abyss light cost is almost nothing and you get so much power out of it. But yeah, that's pretty much the build. Thanks very much for watching. This is a bit of a different volcano taming approach to my previous video. We're more focused about just getting an even amount of heat out than getting the rock out. This rock will just build up in here, but we'll get consistent heat out, and this lets you handle even a regular volcano as opposed to a minor volcano, and you only need 3 steam turbines. It's a bit more compact than handling it the other way, and you're getting a lot of excess power out that you can use to run your base, as opposed to the previous build, which used all of that power to cool the rock quickly, so you can get it to your hatches as soon as possible. But yeah, coolant loop is working properly. Pretty happy with this. I think we're dumping water in the right places now. We made some changes to the pipe compared to what our original design was, but I think this works better. I'm pretty happy with this. There is some water occasionally standing in these pipes, but I don't think it generally stands for long enough that it's going to be an issue based on how the temperature fluctuates around the room. The coolant loop is working just fine. Again, you can move this pipe out here if you're really concerned about the conductivity. You could bring it around this way even. It depends what you want to do. Then automation is all working correctly. You do have to make all of this wire out of steel. If it melts, you're going to have a bad time. So make all of this automation wire out of steel. You can make it out of aluminium when it gets into this room, or whatever other refined metal you have. But this all has to be steel if it's contacting the magma or the heatsink. And then the conveyor loop does appear to be working correctly. Obviously, the amount of rock that actually goes through this loop is fairly small. You do eventually get the rock out, but it takes a while. So don't build this if you're looking to grab loads of rock quickly, but you do get the heat out of it fairly well. And just for comparison, here is what the build looks like when it's mirrored. There's not actually that many functional differences. The only major difference is how the automation looks, and to be honest, there's a fair amount of room to actually position the AND gates, so you don't end up with too many differences. In this case, we couldn't fit a bridge here because the door port is on the left side, so we just went underneath with the automation wire. And then the 3 AND gates were relatively easy to just reorient. You can see it here just directly compared to the volcano above. There isn't really that much difference. It's shuffled around a little bit, but it doesn't really impinge on anything, and nothing else really changes. All of the settings will stay the same as were shown previously. So yeah, feel free to mirror this build with confidence. It doesn't matter what side the volcano is on. So yeah, that's it. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this sort of content, feel free to like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel for more build guide videos like this. We do lots of different build guides. We look at all sorts of different guises, different ways of solving problems. We have tier lists on Oxygen Not Included as well. We have some meme videos as well. People like to discuss this game a lot in the Discord. There's usually someone there to answer questions that you might have about various things. And yeah, we stream Oxygen Not Included on Twitch on Mondays, Tuesdays. That's it at the moment. We're doing Mega Aquarium on Wednesdays. That's the plan. We'll be playing games like Dice Sphere Program in the future. And yeah, it's a good time. 7:30 to 10:30-ish. Feel free to come by and say hello and hang out and enjoy me building stuff like this. I just wish we got around to building something like this on Rhyme Revenge, because that would have saved the run. But we did not figure it out in time. We did the hatch ranches first, instead of actually the machines that are going to give them the food or actually handle the volcanoes in any way, shape, or form at all. But that's how this game goes sometimes. Yeah, thanks very much for watching. I'll let Whiskers do the outro. See you later.
Whiskers sends thanks to the following Twitch subscribers and YouTube members: 999999999, Cyberdine FRD. Grey Area, John Canon 86, Kujiar Jizia, Neo Deus Machina, Sinister Plank, Sweet Danger Kitty, The Bat Guy, The Max Not Binary, and Uglavisk.